Welcome back to our channel where we share updates and untold stories about Catherine, Princess of Wales and her royal family. Today we bring you some news. Camilla caught, red-handed. 23 letters plotting Diana's downfall ignite palace crisis. The Crown conspiracy. Leaked letters say Queen Camilla planned a plot against Diana. A cache of 23 handwritten letters allegedly written by the then Camilla Parker Bowles has come to light. They paint a chilling picture of a planned 2-year campaign to psychologically dismantle, discredit, and ultimately neutralize Diana, Princess of Wales. This revelation could bring down the British monarchy and change the course of history in the late 20th century. A former royal insider who is dying has released the papers to the press. They are from 1995 to 2 days before Diana's fatal automobile tragedy in 1997. They say that the story of a simple love triangle was a meticulously planned cover-up for a far more evil plot that may have known what was going to happen in Paris. The aftermath has caused a worldwide media frenzy, a quick and angry denial from the palace, and the very real chance of a multinational criminal inquiry that may even reach the monarchy itself. The news didn't come via a royal proclamation. It came from a secret phone call in the middle of the night. The phone rang at 3:45 a.m., breaking the quiet of the London apartment with its loud ring. Victoria Hayes, a longtime royal writer for the Chronicle, who has spent 20 years trying to figure out the mysterious world of Windsor, groped for the phone while still half asleep. At this time of day, a call signaled either a royal birth or a royal death. This was a whole other thing. The voice on the other line sounded weak and shaky, but it was clear that the person was determined. It was hardly a whisper. The old lady remarked, "They're going to kill me for this." Her voice was hoarse from age and disease. But the public needs to know what she actually felt of Diana, what she said, what she had in mind. The connection went dead before Victoria could put together a clear query. But as the phone was ringing, a notification pinged on her phone. There was an email. The subject line, "Camilla's secret correspondence, the truth about Diana's final years," made her blood run cold even if the sender's address was an anonymous encrypted one. It wasn't gossip that Victoria Hayes downloaded early on that Thursday morning. It was a file that would shock the monarchy to its core high-resolution scans of 23 handwritten letters that were supposedly from Camilla Parker Bowles to her close friend Tiggy Lega Bourke, who was the nanny for Princes William and Harry. These were not only signs of envy amongst competitors. Later, one source would call them plans for psychological warfare. And now, 26 years after they were written, someone had decided it was time for the truth to be known. Camilla had finally won her ultimate goal, the crown. The questions came out right away and were really big. That was this person that blew the whistle. And why now? The responses would start to reveal everything the public believed they knew about Diana's sad last years. Camilla's meticulously planned rise to power and the scary things the royal family would do to keep their deepest secrets safe. Because these letters weren't simply for personal use. They might have been admissions to a plot that went all the way to the top of the monarchy. The whistleblower's admission. For 43 years, no one knew who the source was, a royal insider who sacrificed everything. Lady Margaret Thornfield, who was 71 years old, had been a quiet part of the royal family from the time of bell-bottoms and silver jubilees. She had clothed 3 queens, planned state dinners for 7 prime ministers, and maintained more royal secrets than the Tower of London's treasure vault. But Lady Margaret, who was 71 and dying of pancreatic cancer, had determined that certain secrets were too dangerous to carry to the cemetery. From 1995 to 2005, she was Camilla Parker Bowles's personal dresser and confidant. This was the important decade when Camilla went from being a hated royal mistress to the future queen. Margaret had access to things like private flats at Highgrove and Clarence House, personal letters placed on writing desks and quiet phone conversations. She had seen the terrible chess game play out from the shadows. By chance, the letters ended up in Margaret's hands. Camilla had requested Margaret to prepare a weekend bag for a trip to Highgrove in late July 1997, only a few weeks before Diana died. The 23 letters were hidden behind a pile of silk scarves in an old Fabergé jewelry box. They were all written to Tiggy Lega Bourke, who had become not just the boy's nanny, but also Camilla's closest friend, and as the letters imply, co-conspirator. Margaret, a lady of great discretion, had planned to give them back right away. But the news from Paris on August 31st altered everything. Diana had died. All of a sudden, the phrases in those letters seemed threatening, prophetic, and very evil. Margaret made good reproductions of each letter, took pictures of them, and put the originals in a bank vault, promising herself she would return them when the time was perfect. She never did. For almost 20 years, Margaret watched as Camilla's public image was slowly rebuilt. She saw how the people slowly accepted her, how the wedding to Charles was painstakingly planned, and how she went from being the other woman to a beloved queen consort. Margaret realized that everything was constructed on a base of well-planned falsehoods and one dreadful hidden truth. When Margaret's doctor told her she had 6 months to live, maybe 8, she made the choice that would start the crisis. In their first real phone chat, Margaret informed Victoria Hayes, "I have something that belongs to history." Her voice was calm, even though she was sick. "But first you need to know what you're up against. These letters aren't simply private ideas. They are proof." Margaret's hands trembled as she handled the documents for the first time in years. This moment came after 26 years of remorse, dread, and moral strife. For years, the palace has kept Camilla's secrets safe. A dying widow with nothing to lose was going to tell everyone about them. But Margaret wasn't stupid. She realized how powerful the castle was. She didn't realize that someone was already watching her. For years, palace security had known that there were missing letters, but she didn't know this. They simply didn't know where it was. Up till now. The letters that made a difference. Victoria Hayes had read thousands of royal documents in her career briefing notes, private diaries, leaked memos, but nothing prepared her for the contents of the file named Camilla 1995-97. The handwriting was unmistakably Camilla's, the same elegant flowing script that would later grace official royal Christmas cards. But the content was poisonous. Letter number 7, written on September 15, 1995, not long after Diana's famous trip to Angola to see a landmine victim. "My dear Tiggy, the Spencer girl is becoming harder and harder to deal with. Charles is entirely taken in by her next pious act, and I'm afraid we're losing ground every day. The media loves it. But I've been wondering what if her greatest strength turns out to be her worst weakness. Her urge to be adored and viewed as faultless is rather weak, isn't it? A single well-placed crack might bring down the entire facade. We need to put pressure on her stability, which is where it hurts the most." The wording were very carefully chosen. This wasn't simply letting off steam. It was the forming of a strategy. Letter Zemriger 12, dated February 3, 1996, after the divorce deal was made public. "The pictures of the landmines have made her a saint again. Charles is furious and claims I'm being crazy, but I know what I see. She is making something that will stay forever, a legacy that will live on after we are gone. We need to do something before she becomes untouchable." I have an idea about the guy's pals at school. Kids do speak, don't they? A few murmurs about their mother's late-night phone calls and special friends. It would be a pity if such things got into the news. Victoria's hands shook as she read on. The letters showed a planned campaign that would last for 2 years. Camilla is said to have gotten close to people in Diana's closest circle, such hairdressers, bodyguards, and even unhappy friends, and fed them well-created suspicions about Diana's mental health, parenting, and reasons for doing things. It was evident what they wanted to cut her off from her support system. But letter number 18, which was written on August 8, 1997, only 3 weeks before Diana died, was the most damning. Charles finally agrees that she is too dangerous to ignore. The divorce was meant to make her quiet, yet she's louder than ever. That interview on Panorama did it. She has started a fight against the institution itself. Tiggy, something has to be done. Something that will last. Eventually the lads will get it. They will be grateful that we kept them safe from her crazy behavior and public displays of shame. The words, something permanent, lingered in the air like a threat. The last letter, number 23, was written on August 29, 1997, 2 days before the deadly vehicle collision. It included just one chilling phrase. Paris will change everything. Our problems will be ended by Sunday, and Charles will finally be able to make his own choices. The lads are tough. They will make it through this. They have to. Victoria looked at the words for a long, quiet minute. Was this a bad sign or something much worse? The time was too important to miss. Camilla knew that Diana was traveling to Paris. She knew when. And for some reason she appeared to know what would happen there. This was the tale of a lifetime, one that might bring down a queen. Victoria froze when she heard a slight noise in the corridor as she grabbed for her phone to contact her editor. A floorboard made a noise. The door to her apartment, which she normally locked twice, was slightly open. She was not by herself. Part the thread. The Palace Response Damage Control at all costs. Sir Malcolm Rothschild, KCVO, has been in charge of handling crises for the monarchy for 30 years. He was the fixer, the guy who covered up scandals, hushed witnesses, and made difficult facts go away like a magician. But at 4:23 a.m., even Malcolm felt the weight of the impossible on that dreary Thursday morning. How many copies? When Palace Security called, his first inquiry was, "What's unknown, sir?" the person on the other line said in a strained tone. The journalist Hayes has digital data printouts and what seem like pictures of the original handwritten letters. We have her flat safe, but she has already sent them someplace. Where is she now? Sir, it's gone. We think she went by a back fire exit around 30 minutes before our crew got there. Someone told her. Malcolm rubbed his temples and closed his eyes. He had never confronted a danger this big in 30 years of duty. The letters were not only humiliating, but they may also be illegal. If they are real, they might mean that they knew about Diana's death, were part of a conspiracy, or perhaps helped kill her. Malcolm had put together his crisis squad in a soundproofed chamber deep within Buckingham Palace within hours. There were the Crown's top lawyers, media experts, private detectives, and a high-ranking officer from a security department that didn't formally exist. Their job was extremely simple: locate Victoria Hayes, get back all the letters, and stop the menace before it could topple the monarchy for good. The palace's initial action was quick and expected. At 9 a.m., an official statement said, Buckingham Palace is aware of false and malicious claims going around about fake documents. These charges are a harsh and desperate effort to hurt Her Majesty, the Queen's image, and they are deemed malicious fabrication. But they recognized that authenticity would be the real struggle. Experts could simply check and verify that Camilla's handwriting was unique and well documented. Their second move was far more inventive and much more evil. By noon, rumors were spreading in rival media circles about Victoria Hayes's history of mental health struggles, and a time when she supposedly made false documents for attention. Anonymous social media accounts that had just been set up hours before started posting old, unflattering pictures of Victoria looking messy at a university party with captions that called her credibility into question. It was a textbook case of character assassination. Malcolm told his men in a harsh voice, "Find the old woman. Lady Margaret Thornfield. She's the source and she's going to die. People who are dying are hard to forecast." They stopped caring about what happens next. Malcolm didn't realize that Margaret had expected this precise answer. She had been getting ready for battle for months. The letters were only the first shot. There were pictures, audio recordings, and written proof of palace wrongdoing that went back decades, hidden in safety deposit boxes all around London, Geneva, and New York. Margaret had preserved everything: hotel bills from Charles and Camilla's secret meetings, phone records, comments from other unhappy staff members, and even medical reports that had been hidden. She had set up a dead man's switch. If anything happened to her or Victoria Hayes, all of the evidence would be sent at once to a group of newspapers and broadcasters in 12 nations. The palace had launched war on a lady who had nothing to lose. They will soon regret making that error. The war in the media and the insurance policy Victoria Hayes watched as her professional reputation was being destroyed on live television from a modest, inconspicuous hotel room in Edinburgh. Sky News showed her college yearbook picture with the headline, "Disgraced Journalist's History of Fabrication." The BBC put together a group of royal specialists to talk about when royal reporting goes too far, the dangers of unverified sources. But Victoria wasn't the only one. She was in touch with a small, trusted group of people at her daily and a network of worldwide journalists that Margaret had set up. At 6 o'clock at 8:00 a.m., her encrypted phone buzzed with a message from a friend at a competing network, Channel 7. Anonymous source confirms authenticity. 3 experts agree on this. We're going to run the article tonight. God help us all. The next thing that transpired broke 40 years of tacit rules for royal media. Instead of the weather or politics, Channel 7's nightly news started with its most regarded anchor, David Morrison, holding up stark white reproductions of the letters. He started with a serious voice. "Good evening. 3 of the world's top handwriting experts have confirmed what you are about to see and compared it to real letters from Camilla Parker Bowles in the Royal Archives. These are real, not fake." When Morrison read parts of the book aloud, the palace's phone lines went crazy. But when Morrison showed the signed authentication reports, the chain of custody paperwork from Margaret's lawyer, and most damaging of all, a side-by-side handwriting analysis that showed a 99.7% chance of matching Camilla's writing, their prepared denials suddenly seemed empty and almost sad. The story blew up in a matter of hours. CNN's headline was, "Royal Conspiracy Alleged in Diana Letters." France's Le Monde had an editorial on the main page headed, "The Questions That Demand Answers." Germany's Der Spiegel urged for an urgent criminal probe. The palace's reply was quick and violent. By midnight, Channel 7's parent corporation was being sued by 3 different groups for millions of pounds. Their main sponsor, a huge company with connections to a company that managed royal investments, canceled their $50 million yearly contract right after. The money that the network was getting started to disappear in real time. The assaults on people became worse. The tabloids got their hands on David Morrison's sealed divorce paperwork from 20 years ago. A Channel 7 producer realized that his bank accounts had been seized because of a sudden suspicious activity signal. After a routine traffic check, another journalist working on the story was detained on false drug possession allegations. It was clear, if you cross the monarchy, you will pay. But Margaret Thornfield had also seen this coming. At 3:00 a.m. sharp, when the palace's crisis team may have been enjoying their media success, 247 journalists, prosecutors, and legislators from 6 continents got emails. The subject line was clear: insurance policy. The attachments had everything in them. Records of money that supposedly reveal transfers from funds near the palace to media executives. There are recordings of phone discussions between royal officials and newspaper editors talking about how to manage articles. There is documented proof of witness intimidation tactics that have been going on for 30 years, all the way back to the beginning of Diana's marriage. Margaret's lawyer gave a clear and plain message. Stop the assaults on Victoria Hayes and Channel 7, or everything will be made public. You have a day. The palace has always controlled the story by using terror, favor, and money. Someone was now threatening to reveal their tactics and secrets for the first time in contemporary history. The Queen was about to find out that money and threats don't always work in fights. Some fights need a truth that she no longer had. The House of Windsor turns against itself. The emergency conference at Windsor Castle was unlike from any other assembly in the castle's 1,000-year existence. King Charles III sat at the head of the old wood table. His face was pale, and he looked decades older than he had a week previously. Queen Camilla looked at printed copies of her own letters to her right. Her carefully kept outward calm finally broke, showing the deep terror below. Princess Anne, who is always practical, looked at financial figures that showed the monarchy's popularity ratings were going down quite quickly, and behind them, Prince William paced, his controlled rage a strong presence in the room. "How could you be so careless?" William's voice broke the uncomfortable stillness and spoke directly to Camilla. "Letters. My mom. About her death." Camilla's answer was a strangled murmur. "William, they were private thoughts, not intended for anybody to see. Thoughts about killing the mother of your stepchildren in private." Princess Anne's voice was as frigid as ice. "About permanent solutions and troubles being over. Do you understand what you've done to this family and this institution?" King Charles eventually spoke, and his voice sounded tired. "The question isn't what was intended, the issue is what can be shown to be true." None of them understood that Margaret Thornfield's insurance policy included a lot more than simply media proof. In her computer files, there was a transcript of a tape from a broken security system at Highgrove House on August 27, 1997, 3 days before Diana died. Charles, Camilla, and 3 close advisors were the only people at the meal. The audio recording of the talk was so clear that it was damning beyond belief. Camilla said, "She's all alone now. She doesn't have a bodyguard she trusts or pals who the press hasn't turned against her. Henri Paul has been helpful with our French relationships." Charles's voice obviously uncomfortable. "Are you sure this is necessary?" "The lads," Camilla said in a stern voice. "The boys will be fine. Kids are tough, but this institution won't last another 10 years if she keeps fighting against it." Her or us. The video went on for 47 minutes talking about supposed payments to photographers, to make sure a pursuit happened, working with French intelligence connections, to make sure an inquiry was mishandled, and backup plans for dealing with what they chillingly called the Paris situation. For 26 years, Margaret had this tape and was waiting. Her lawyer sent the audio clip straight to the International Criminal Court in The Hague and the public prosecutor's office in Paris as the royal family fought over the letters. Within a few hours, the palace learnt that 3 nations were starting official criminal investigations into the murder of Diana, Princess of Wales. But the worst blow came from a place he didn't anticipate. Prince Harry made a statement from his residence in California via his Archewell Foundation. "If these claims turn out to be true, they are not just a violation of my mother's memory, but also a crime that led to her death. I want everything to be clear, and an unbiased international probe. The organization I was created to serve must be held accountable for these atrocities. There can't be any more secrets. The royal family's public relations problems were over. They were going to be charged with a crime. Queen Camilla was facing the very real potential that her greatest triumph, becoming queen, might be her straight way to a jail cell for the first time in her life. The monarchy had been through global wars, abdications, and scandals that lasted for hundreds of years. But it had never been in a situation like this before. This time, the proof wasn't simply rumors or guesswork. This time, the conspirator wrote out their own admissions. The trial of the century, Diana gets justice. The trial was unlike anything the International Criminal Court in The Hague had ever seen. The defendant was not a warlord or a tyrant. She was a lady who had been the Queen of the United Kingdom only 6 months before. Camilla Parker Bowles was arrested by Swiss police at a private Zurich clinic where she was reportedly trying to change her looks with a lot of cosmetic surgery. She was now sitting in the defendant's chair. She was charged with conspiracy to commit murder, obstruction of justice, and, in a new legal argument, crimes against humanity for the psychological torture of a famous person throughout the world. The prosecution's case, headed by a strong French prosecutor, was quite strong. Lady Margaret Thornfield, who was weak and bedridden, presented her statement via a live video connection from her hospice chamber. Margaret murmured, "She planned it for months." Her voice was faint but clear. She called it the Paris solution. It was supposed to look like a terrible accident that happened because Diana lived a dangerous life. Audio specialists verified that the Highgrove dinner recording and a second much more damaging tape that Margaret had sent were real. This second recording, which she recorded with a microcassette recorder she had placed in Camilla's living room on the night Diana died, caught a phone call at 4:23 a.m., the period in Britain. "It's done," Camilla said. "Henri Paul did a great job. The pictures will demonstrate that she was intoxicated and careless with her new boyfriend. No one will doubt a simple vehicle crash." The trial changed when Prince William, who had given up his royal titles, joined the stand. The guy who would have been king met his stepmother directly in a testimony that had never happened before. "You ruined my family," he screamed, his voice quivering with 25 years of hatred and anguish that he had kept within. "You killed my mom. And then you spent 26 years lying to my brother and me, appearing to care about us all while you knew what you had done." The defense's claim that the letters were fake and the recordings were made up digitally fell apart when forensic evidence was presented. Between July and September 1997, Swiss bank records showed a trail of $2.3 million in payments to French authorities, photographers, and intelligence agents. All of these payments came from accounts controlled by Camilla and her closest allies. After 17 days of horrible evidence, the worldwide jury took less than 4 hours to make their decision. Everyone agreed guilty on all counts. The punishment was life in jail with no chance of release. Camilla looked back at the gallery where King Charles sat with his head in his hands one final time as she was brought away in handcuffs. The court's microphones picked up her last words, which were heard across the world. "I did it for us, for the Queen. She was going to ruin everything." The people who had come from all around the world to the courts went crazy. The streets were full with signs that said, "Justice for Diana" and "The People's Princess Vindicated." A new day Britain has changed a lot in the year since Camilla was found guilty. In a historic vote, the people chose to overthrow the monarchy and replace it with a democratic republic. King Charles had stepped down and moved to a peaceful private life in Scotland, where he would always be plagued by his decisions. William Windsor, who is now a private individual, became a strong voice for press freedom and changes to the legal system throughout the world. Harry kept doing good things for others, finally allowed to respect his mother's actual heritage without having to follow royal rules. The Diana Memorial Foundation, which was started again using money taken from Camilla's illegal businesses, became one of the biggest charities in the world. 2 months after the judgment, Lady Margaret Thornfield died quietly. She is said to have said, "I kept my promise, Your Royal Highness." Victoria Hayes earned the Pulitzer Prize for her reporting on the story. Her novel, The Letters That Toppled a Crown, sold millions of copies throughout the world. In schools all around the new British Republic, kids learnt about Princess Diana, not as a sad fairy tale character, but as a lady who never gave up on finding her own truth even after she died. The tomb at Kensington Palace has a fresh inscription that came from a last desperate letter Diana sent to a friend. It said, "Please tell the world what really happened." People all throughout the globe had listened. People had learnt. And the world was different. The letters that were supposed to silence Diana forever actually gave her the final say, challenging the very foundations of authority and showing that genuine truth doesn't wear a crown. It lasts. And in the end, it wins. If this narrative made you feel anything, there is more to it than meets the eye. Sign up for stories that delve beyond royal looks to reveal the secrets, wounds, and power behind the titles. Leave a comment below. Is this justice, or is it simply a new version of history? Because the truth doesn't always knock on the doors of power. It can get through a hole in the wall, and when it does, everything changes. Thank you for watching the video. Please let us know your thoughts, and goodbye for now.